and welcome to Long Story Short. I am Kejan Haynes, and yes, I am blending into this background. But let's start this show. Remember when I said Venezuela is that neighbor that keeps parking its derelict vehicles in the street and lowering our property value? I was talking about this, the Nabarima. No matter which side of the aisle you're on, we can at least agree that we're very uncomfortable about its presence. So, to those of you living under the rock, let's find out how we got here. As far back as August 31st, and possibly even before, there were reports of a tilting oil tanker in the Gulf of Paria.
There have been international media reports on concerns raised by Venezuelan oil workers, claiming that an anchored Venezuelan storage tanker at full capacity exceeding 1 million barrels of crude oil has been taking on water and began tilting in the Gulf of Paria. According to one report, the Venezuelan Ecology Society is said to be monitoring the situation and warns that if the vessel sinks, it could trigger the worst marine environmental disaster in Venezuela's history, with the potential to affect fisheries and coastlines in Trinidad and Tobago.
And Gary Aboud had been clamoring for the government to do something. But in that same TV6 story, the Minister of Energy did say that he was aware of the situation. The problem was he wasn't very reassuring.
We contacted Energy Minister Franklin Khan, who told TV6 News they were monitoring the situation very closely. He said, quote, "Information coming out of Venezuela is that the ship is upright and in a stable condition pending preparation for the transfer of the cargo to a contracted vessel," end quote. When asked if that meant the reported tilt was rectified or whether Venezuelan authorities were denying a tilt existed at all, Minister Khan would only say that that is the information they have at present.
Yeah, see, so the PNM is always terrible at communication. In this case, it's not like Dennis Moses terrible at communication because he was a robot, but it's still pretty bad. You see, Gary Aboud took a holding statement, "We're monitoring the situation," and took that to mean we're not doing anything. And well, that's when it all went to hell.
55 days of public appeal and the government has deferred and deferred and deferred. But during COVID lockdown, the Prime Minister hosted 6 oil company of Venezuela executives for private lunch.
Delcy Rodriguez, Vice President, could have come to Trinidad overnight, violating our national law, rules and health regulations. But Keith Rowley cannot talk to his comrade, Nicolas Maduro.
We have to stand up to this kind of lethargic response to pressing issues, and that's always the space that I am coming from, you know. I'm not saying run around like a headless chicken, but you also can't be an ostrich to major issues. And that's how the government reacted to this.
And that's probably where you picked up on the story, because that's when the hysteria kicked in, and this was everywhere. CBS, ABC, NBC, New York Times, Change.org, Spanish media, French media, this YouTube blogger.
Straight up, I think I'll just tell the truth, and sometimes people don't like the truth because they want to be like buttered up a little bit. I don't tend to butter things up. I'll just say it straight how it is.
And if you're asking, who is she and how did she get involved in this? I don't know. But she really was going down the misinformation road on Twitter until the record was set straight, and she eventually had to delete that tweet. All right, so finally, the Foreign Affairs Minister stepped in and said, "Ugh, guys, we are actually working on this."
We have issued a series of diplomatic notes to the government of Venezuela, requesting, in the first instance, validation of the condition of the vessel, and then subsequently requesting authorization to cross the border, approach the vessel, board the vessel, and conduct a specific series of scientific assessments. The visit was scheduled by both authorities for the 28th of September. Very unfortunately, just before that date, the government of Venezuela intervened to postpone and delay our assessment of the vessel.
You see, if he had said that the entire time, we wouldn't be in this conundrum. But at least Minister Brown would say, though, that he saw all of your social media recommendations.
But one that caught my attention was a repeated remark that we must just go and seize the vessel. Now, obviously, that would be a violation of international law, and would have plunged Trinidad and Tobago into an intractable situation. Another was that we should just forget about sanctions and go and empty the vessel ourselves. And that obviously was a layperson's and really an absurd proposition. And then the other comment that was often repeated was, do something now. The government must do something now. But as I have demonstrated, and Minister Khan would further demonstrate, the government has been doing its part.
Look, diplomacy ain't easy, but so far we've at least sent people to go and inspect the ship. Energy Minister Franklin Khan explained where we were on the tilt and the leak and everything else you've been worried about.
The FSO Nabarima is upright and stable with no visible tilt, and there is no imminent risk of tilting or sinking. 2, there is no water ingress on the vessel visible to the team. And this is a very important point. It was confirmed from the representatives that during the incident when the engine room was flooded, there was no mixing of oil and bilge water. It's at a double hull, because it's a double hull vessel, are intact and poses the minimum risk of any oil spills at this time.
So, the story's done, everybody's happy.
Garia Boot says videographic evidence should be provided.
There's been a lot of misinformation coming out of Venezuela. I just think it's more credible and more reliable that we should have convincing data and information, not just someone's word.
Hi, cara.
Accompanied by the sounds of Latin music, a video recorded by Venezuelan authorities shows the visit, or parts thereof, of the 3-member team of experts from Trinidad and Tobago while they inspected what appeared to be an upright floating oil storage vessel, the Nabarima, on Tuesday.
Look, remember our friend Amber? She had actually tweeted when this whole thing was going on. She said, ha ha ha, I can't deal with Twitter and social media. 1 minute it's that you've literally just heard about this, why are you posting it? The next it's, why haven't you spoken up on this matter yet? Well, 1, I'm not sure who asked you to speak up on anything in this case. And 2, if you're going to champion a cause, at least make sure you fully understand what's happening, especially if you know your voice carries weight. Looking at you, Buju. But this by no means means that we're going to cancel Gary Aboud, because he's still to be credited for getting the information and the attention that this deserves. But for the rest of you slacktivists out there, oh God, cut the ship. Let's take a break.